Hello scholars, my name is Dr. Karis Dillon, and the goal of this channel is to make academic subjects easier to understand. In the last video, we discussed the definition of economics as well as the traditional economy, the command economy, and the market economy. In this video, we're going to cover the production possibilities frontier and lots more. So let's get started. A majority of us like money, right? Well, it's generally not the money that individuals want. Money smells funny, and it really is kind of dirty. Usually people want the opportunities or consumer goods that can be bought with the exchange of money. In order for money to have value, its value has to be agreed upon by those that use it. In the past, individuals exchanged what they created, their knowledge or their skills, or their time for whatever it is they or their family needed. When money was created, it provided a more efficient means of placing value onto products or services, which could then be exchanged for other products or services now or at a later date. Individuals or families have options as to what they can spend money on. Because money and resources are not unlimited, we often have to choose between two options as to what we will purchase. This is what is called a budget constraint. This means an individual will have to choose between two different options they may find favorable. Let's say each month you have $40 that you're able to spend after all your bills are paid. You've been thinking about getting a gym membership, which will cost $40 a month. This would mean, though, that you would need to stop eating out with your friends 4 times a month or once a week. Which would you choose? As individuals, we're constantly looking for ways to stretch our money as far as possible. You know you want to join a gym, but maybe there's a gym down the street that offers daily visits for $2.50 a day. You might decide to go to the gym twice a week and see if you're really committed to getting a monthly membership. But you know you're going to have to cut down going out with your friends out to eat. As much as gyms would love to secure individuals with yearly or monthly membership, most people need lots of options. A good business will either attempt to provide multiple options or will brand itself to a certain kind of customer in hopes of gaining year-long memberships. What would the opportunity cost be of somebody, let's say Greg, paying for 2 days at a gym per week? Opportunity cost means what a person must give up in order to attain or get what he or she wants. In this case, the opportunity cost for a monthly membership of the gym would be going out to 4 meals with his coworkers or friends. If Greg is able to secure 2 days a week at a gym for $2.50 a day, his opportunity would now be 2 days out of 4 that he would have to stop eating meals with his friends. Individuals with a limited income have to decide which good or service has more value to them. There are trade-offs with every decision someone makes, especially when resources or income are limited. The idea of opportunity cost becomes more difficult to conceptualize when time is included. Now, I went to college from 1995 to 1999 to get my bachelor's degree. When I was going to high school, it was hammered into me that without a 4-year degree, that I'd never be able to make enough money to support myself. This was not only hammered into me by my parents, but also my teachers, along with a majority of my graduating class. And many of us went to college and graduated with phenomenal debt. What I didn't understand at the time was that this idea of further education benefited the baby boom generation, but it would not benefit Generation X. Don't get me wrong, I'd never trade my education for anything, but my parents and my teachers didn't come out of college with an enormous debt like our generation did. On average, for those that graduated from a 4-year institution in 1999, these individuals averaged $14,000 to $26,000 in debt. I went to Luther College, which was a private school in Iowa, and I left with about $28,000 in debt. Again, my education was phenomenal and I wouldn't trade it for the world, but there's definitely a cost there. My first take-home check from teaching for 1 month was $1,400. I'll never forget it. You can imagine what my student loans were at the time. I had 3 children, daycare costs to endure, electricity, sewage, garbage, gas, car loans, and rent. If I didn't have a husband, it would have been impossible for me to survive. The opportunity cost of going to college for 4 years at a time is enormous debt, as well as the cost of tuition, books, room and board, and other expenses. Even though the budget constraint model helps to show what opportunity cost is and all the potential trade-offs, most of us don't make choices dualistically, meaning one extreme or the other. Most choices involve marginal analysis, meaning we look at the benefits and costs of each choice before we decide what to do. It's not about being all one way or the other. Another term economists use is utility. Utility is the idea that the more of a good a person consumes, the more utility that person obtains. Now, when a person gets one or two of a good, the utility they gain from the first and second item is going to be much more in regards to utility than what they gain in the fifth or the seventh item. So let's say you go to the grocery store, you grab a bunch of bananas, and there's 7 bananas total. On the first day, you eat 1, you eat 2. Now the nutrition that you gain by eating those bananas with the potassium and other nutrients, that's going to be much greater to you than if you, for some strange reason, decide to eat a 3rd, 4th, 5th, and on banana in that same day. This is better known in the economic circle as the law of diminishing marginal utility. The law of diminishing marginal utility says that as an individual gets more of a good, the additional utility from each additional unit will begin to decline. Now keep that in mind when we get to that production possibilities frontier. The last part of the budget constraint framework that we need to talk about is sunken costs. When you look at a budget constraint framework, you need to assume that all things in the past are gone and that this framework is what is happening right now. Sunken costs are defined as costs that were incurred in the past and they cannot be recovered. Sunken costs are often really hard for individuals and businesses to admit. Now, as an example, as an individual, I went on to Amazon and decided I'm going to buy 2 recliners off of Amazon. It'll be fine, they'll be comfortable, and it'll be really worth my money, right? Well, no. I might as well have set up 2 cardboard boxes because that's what those recliners felt like. We sat in those dang chairs much longer than I would have normally wanted because I didn't want to admit I hated them. They had really cool cup holders that even fit my cell phone, so I wanted them to work, but they just didn't. And that's what people do when they create businesses and they make mistakes. They spend too much time kind of harping on the fact that they made an economic error. I felt better when I was able to give them to my poor college-age daughter and her friends because at that age you can sit or sleep on anything. My lovely sunken costs were about $500, $250 per chair. I made sure to try out the next chairs for my living room before I bought them. Lesson learned, I am never going to buy a piece of furniture that I sit on Amazon. Now, just like individuals are limited to what they can buy or places they can go, societies are the same way. Local, state, and federal governments, if you live in the U.S., have constraints just like people do. The choices these governments have to make are usually portrayed on a production possibilities frontier. Societies generally face limited resources concerning labor, whether it's skilled or unskilled, land, capital, and raw materials. A business is also limited because they lack these same items and can only produce so many goods and services in a 24-hour period. Let's use the production possibilities curve to show these limitations. Let's say the United States government is trying to decide upon its federal funding toward the military and education. In this example, let's go ahead and put education on the vertical axis, whereas the military will be on the horizontal axis. If the U.S. government gave all of its resources or money to education, this would be represented by point A. Education would have the resources it needs to provide schools whatever they needed and wanted. A production possibilities curve shows a society all the possibilities between 2 different factors. A society can choose anywhere along the curve that it desires. The society cannot choose a point outside of the curve, though, because it does not have enough resources to produce that. If you notice on this production possibilities curve, though, point B and point E are semi-flat. Why aren't these points the same as the rounder areas near point C and D? If we look again at the possibility of point A, We see that education has all the resources they need to optimally produce everything they need and want to at this level. If education starts losing a little bit of its funding and possibly shifts to point B, it can easily absorb that loss by finding alternative products or services that don't cost as much. Whereas education loses a little bit of its resources, the military can greatly benefit from the additional funding or the additional unit that it's gaining. Remember, the first and second unit of a resource provide much more utility than the fifth or the seventh unit. Those students of economics that first look at the budget constraint framework and the production possibilities curve notice that the framework has a line, whereas the production possibilities curve is round. Well, the second is curved because at point A, all resources are being given to education and nothing is being left for the military. American children could go to school each day of the week having everything they need, but the military would not have anything. It would not have soldiers, training, technology, or weapons to help protect our nation. Now, what if we moved our resources or nation's financing or funding to the point B? This movement would give less to education, but maybe students don't need after-school tutors provided for free. But with one additional unit of resources for the military, they may be able to provide for salaries for soldiers on the West and East Coast, helping to protect our nation, versus nothing from before. They might have a few weapons to help protect the nation, but they would still lack training and military technology. The reason why point B and point E are so close to each of the extremes are because the loss of the first unit of a resource doesn't really have an enormous impact on either education or the military. The closer we get to point C and point D, the more the factors of education and military can do with their spending. As resources are moved to points in the middle of the production possibilities curve, the more likely the law of increasing opportunity will happen. The law of increasing opportunity cost states that as the production of a good or service increases, the marginal opportunity cost of producing that item increases as well. The more products businesses can produce in lesser time, the lower the cost the business will have for producing that item. In the last chapter, we talked about the differences between a traditional command and market economy. In a market economy like the US, the government rarely ever tells the business sector what they must produce. I recognize this changed a little bit with the pandemic and the creation of the vaccine, but this is a bit different because that was a national crisis. It's during times of war or national crisis that we see the government kind of stepping in and asking businesses to produce differently. But generally, businesses will make these changes because they gain the respect of their consumers, and it will help to make their business look better. Economists often understand different theories concerning how businesses should or should not make decisions, but they don't offer this unless they're hired by a firm to do so. A market economy freely allows its people to make their own businesses and how these businesses are going to run. Businesses often have to be innovative and creative when the economy changes in order to keep themselves up and running through difficult times. Economists have a term called efficiency, and this means eliminating waste. If a company owns old machines that do not work as quickly as newer ones, this comes at a cost to the business. Maybe the old machine takes more time to complete a task or takes more electricity to run it. The business owner will have inefficiency until they can upgrade their technology. Because technology is expensive, businesses have to make tough decisions about how to spend their money. Delays and high costs of production mean less profits. An efficient business or organization will keep to a schedule, have goals that it focuses on, and it will also keep to a budget. Productive efficiency means having the most innovative technology and being able to produce the same good of a better quality or in a lesser time. On the production possibilities curve, the curved line represents productive efficiency. When a business is not producing on that line or is inside of the curve, this is considered inefficient. A point that is located outside that curved line is considered an impossibility. One of the only ways to reach that point is to gain new technology that will completely shift the whole production possibilities curve to the right. Allocative efficiency means a particular combination of goods or services that meet the consumer demand for both particular products. It's really difficult for a business to predict the perfect combination of particular products that consumers will want. A good business has to decide what its products will be and whether or not they fit the wants and needs of a person. Needs are considered those products or services that someone needs to survive. We consider these food, water, shelter, consider rent, possibly transportation, clothing if it's a need, garbage, and usually healthcare. Wants are items that a person does not need to survive. These items come secondary to needs. It could be anything like a bigger house or a new car or organic food, clothing that is not absolutely needed, entertainment, alcohol, going on vacation, and so forth. Businesses that sell those items that people need are always going to do pretty well unless the economy is an absolute disaster. Or other businesses, their competition, are able to offer the products at a lesser cost. Many businesses have figured out that if they offer products or services that meet a person's needs, but also provide products that are wants, this might help the business to survive hard economic times. Generally, those products that are bought because people want them tend to make more profits than needs, but it all truly depends upon demand. When working with the production possibilities curve, it's hard for businesses to know what quantities consumers will be wanting of each particular product. Being able to observe the economy and its health would help businesses be able to predict this a little bit better. There's only one choice on the production possibilities curve that is the most efficient, and this can easily change from week to week or even day to day. The only way a business can cause the shift of a production possibilities curve is by figuring out how to produce more of an item or service in less time or of a better quality, or by adopting some form of technology that improves efficiency. Factors that would shift a production possibilities curve to the left would be not being able to find enough labor to produce products, or when the economy takes a turn for the worse, businesses have to start laying people off. When it comes to various nations, sometimes the land and its resources dictate how and what a country can produce. In the case of growing crops, certain land is suited for certain crops. In Iowa, where I live, our state produces corn and soybeans. These crops are particularly hard on our soil. The states to the west of us usually produce wheat because the soil located in those states is less nutrient rich. Other countries, like those in South America, have soil that's better suited for crops like sugarcane. If we tried to produce sugarcane in the Midwest, people would laugh at us. This crop needs longer periods of time to grow in intense heat. We only have intense heat in Iowa for 2 to 3 months of the year, and we also have lots of precipitation and rainfall as well as snow. We probably have snow for 4 to 5 months out of the year. So we could never produce as much sugarcane to make a profit as countries in South America can. South America can produce sugarcane at a lower cost than the U.S., especially the Midwest states. This means the countries in South America that can produce sugarcane have what's called an absolute advantage in this crop. What are some criticisms of this production possibilities curve? Those individuals that make decisions, whether it's the government, businesses, or individuals, we don't tend to use production possibilities curves to map out different products that we may want to sell or offer. Most people in business learn really quickly what trade-offs are, and if they don't, they usually don't stay in business too long. If students learn about the production possibilities curves and other economic ideas before they start a business, this will greatly benefit the decisions they make before doing so. Economic theories, frameworks, and models aren't perfect. Many of these theories were created at a time when they couldn't predict social media, various technologies, and how services might change in the future. Sometimes economics can make statements that are positive, and sometimes ones that are normative. Positive statements tend to be realistic and provide facts about the world as it is at the present moment. Normative statements describe the world as people would like for it to be or believe it should be. Economists can test and conduct experiments given positive statements. Normative statements cannot be tested. Many times, politicians will make normative statements acting as though the statement is positive, and it's just not. Economists are supposed to stay out of politics when they're providing their analyses of the economy. Many Democrat and Republican presidents have chosen economists from all different sides of the aisle in the political spectrum. Those that have chosen economists with different political ideologies do so because they know they're excellent at what they do. Economics will always be difficult because human behavior and spending behavior is not easy to predict. Do all people in business seek profits and make decisions based upon self-interest? Absolutely not. If that were the case, lawmakers could pass regulations concerning taxes in a fair way for all of society. Right now, some businesses make sure their workers earn enough money and are provided adequate health care, whereas others want more profit and don't always provide adequate health care. A market economy allows its citizens personal freedoms, which means businesses can spend their money on what they want to. Workers and consumers can make decisions about where to work and where to buy goods and services based upon what they know about the business. Well, that is the end of the video. I hope these videos help to make you more successful in your economics class, or if you're just here to learn more about economics, that's awesome too. I want you to have an amazing day if you can. Remember to subscribe. Don't forget to click that like button. I'll be with you again soon so we can talk again.